Hey guys, what's up? It's me, Thomas. Today we're back here with Extra History. Today we got a bit of a one-off. This is on the Collyer Brothers, House of Death. So, never heard of these guys, but apparently they're part of American history, so might as well see why it's called the House of Death. Not sure, but let's check it out. Be sure to like, subscribe for more. Hope you enjoy. Here we go.
New York City, 1942. A team of policemen, sheriffs, lawyers, and carpenters kick at the door of the four-story Harlem brownstone, but to no avail. The brothers within were 3 years behind on rent, you see, but the eviction squad found they couldn't get inside. Because as the police attacked fruitlessly with foot, fist, and axe, the brothers lurked behind an enormous barricade of crap. The house was filled from floor to ceiling with crates and cartons, chandeliers, bowling balls, a horse-drawn carriage, human organs in jars, unfinished tapestries, tin cans, tires, and bugles. If the bank wanted the brothers out,
an early symbol Hoardism.
And then contend with a system of booby-trapped tunnels that just might bring the whole horde down square on their heads. And the door finally gave way, and the police waded waist deep into piles of junk. But eventually, in the heart of the labyrinth, the cops found old Langley Collyer. What is the meaning of this? Oh, the mortgage, yes. Why didn't you say so? I'll write you a check right now. Patting his pockets, he glanced around at the ceiling-high stack of objects all around them. Does anybody have a pen?
Really? Y'all this are like, you got a pen? Really? Oh boy.
Thanks so much to Doom.
That's just a setup for a joke.
Possible. Please go check out their delightfully doomed card game that's been sitting at the top of my games pile for a few weeks now after the episode.
Let's go.
Say, there goes old Herman Collyer, cried the people of New York in delight as the eccentric gynecologist made his way to work in the morning by paddling a canoe down the East River. Yeah. Herman was a character,
just canoeing
but he and his people had been fixtures of New York society for centuries. The Collyers supposedly were descended from the Livingstons, who arrived in New York in the 17th century, making them cousins to the Astors, the Roosevelts, and the Hamiltons. Collyer legend even had it that Queen Victoria had gifted a grand piano to Herman's wife, Susie. Oh, and she came from a prominent family, too. Hermans! Yeah, they were first cousins. Hey, when you've got a classy New York dynasty going, do you really want some stranger doing a cannonball into the gene pool?
Wow.
Well, they sure didn't. And neither did their two sons,
Homer
and Langley, who pursued this line of thinking to its logical conclusion, extinction.
Off
At
the
first,
rails.
Homer and Langley looked to maintain the prestige of the cultivated Collyers. Both went to Columbia, where Homer studied maritime law, and Langley engineering and chemistry. Taking after his mother, Langley was also a skilled concert pianist, even performing at Carnegie Hall. Yes, it was to be high society for the boys then, and they were well aware of their eminent origins. Langley once told the press that their ancestors came to America not on the Mayflower, but the Speedwell, a ship that carried a better class of passenger. The brothers also taught Sunday school. So, come to think of it, they would have been well aware of Proverbs 16:18. Pride go beforeth destruction, and a haughty spirit before the fall. Tragically, they never saw this as particularly relevant. In 19...
Yeah, that does sound like something's gonna happen. Like, I'm so great, and not my life. Shit. Sheesh. I don't know what happened that caused, like, well, what we saw in the beginning. Just the fact that they just, you know, had a house full of booby-trapped tunnels? Like, how? Well, let's just see what happened here.
1909, feeling flush, Herman, Susie, and the boys moved to a large brownstone in fashionable, well-to-do Harlem. Homer at the time was 28 years old, and Langley 24. Now, you might be asking, why were they still living at home in their mid to late 20s? Seems a little odd for the time. Oh boy, are we just getting started. A decade later, Herman and Susie separated. Susie kept the house, and the children, grown men, stayed with her. After that, Herman passed away, leaving to his sons all of the artifacts of his medical practice, 15,000 textbooks among them. In 1929, Susie died as well, and for the first time in their 40s, Homer and Langley were home alone. But the New York that they knew, particularly the white, affluent Harlem they'd grown up in, was changing. When the Collyer brothers came to Harlem in 1909, the neighborhood was about 10% black. But in 1930, it was 70. That same decade saw, of course, the Great Depression, meaning in Harlem, 1 in 4 people were out of work. Now, regular viewers of our
Oh,
show
Renaissance
might remember
there.
that this was also the time of the Harlem Renaissance, a foundational era of African-American art, music, and literature, which you can and should learn about more here. But I'm sure surprising few of you. Turned out Herman and Susie Collyer had not relocated the white, wealthy Collyer dynasty to Harlem because of W.E.B. Du Bois's Manifesto for Black Theater. So as white
Let me
Harlem
guess.
receded, so too did the Collyer brothers, deep into their own shared bubble. Then in 1933, Homer went blind, which made the metaphor of the Collyer brothers' existence literal and complete. Unwilling and unable to perceive the world around him, Homer quit his law firm and withdrew into the house. Langley followed suit, leaving his job as a piano dealer to take care of Homer full-time. Langley cooked for Homer, read him Shakespeare and Dickens, and painted Homer's otherworldly visions of beautiful red buildings. We should note here that Langley was not a doctor, but did fancy himself more knowledgeable than any of them. I mean, was he not the son of a gynecologist? Did he not own 15,000 textbooks? No need for doctors, Langley thought.
Sure about
Homer's
that?
blindness could be cured with a simple diet of 100 oranges a week. This did not necessarily aid Homer's blindness. In fact, Homer eventually developed rheumatism, then paralysis. So by day, Langley tended to Homer. But at night, he left the house to dumpster dive for food and anything else that kind of looked cool. He was collecting textbooks, grand pianos, well, anything really. Oh, and a copy of each day's newspaper. He said he was saving these for Homer to read once he regained his sight. Ironically, the Collyers disappearing into the house had the effect of making them notorious. The aristocratic Harlem brothers holed up in a brownstone, hoarding books, pianos, food, clocks, cats, and guns. Unfortunately, the pressure on local teens to vandalize the house proved irresistible, and they attacked with rocks and jeers. In response, Langley boarded up the windows. But that didn't stop the odd teen or two from breaking in to look for hidden treasure. Drastic measures were called for. And so, from Langley's collection of wire, car parts, springs, and garbage, he outfitted the house with an elaborate network of booby traps and tunnels to catch would-be thieves. If an intruder stumbled over a tripwire, he'd be trapped and crushed. All we want is for people to leave us alone, Homer told the press. Added Langley, all people are after is money. Well, the phone company was after their money, that's for sure. See, having lost interest in paying their bills, the brothers' telephone was disconnected. Oh, you can't imagine how free we feel, Langley said, followed by the discontinuation of their water, gas, and electricity. No matter. Langley boasted that, because of an inventive mind, he had devised a way to make his own electricity. But that this was, quote, too much trouble, and so he didn't do it very much. Once Langley paid off the mortgage, that scene from the beginning of the show actually does end with him paying it off. The brothers could really do whatever they wanted with the place. But only 5 years later, the police received a phone call about an ominous smell at the Collyer house. After going through the whole thing with the door again, the police slowly pushed their way through 100 tons of banjos, bolts of silk, baby carriages, and horse to find the body of poor old Homer Collyer, dead for 10 hours from starvation. So densely packed was the house that the police had to send Homer out the window in a body bag, making him the first thing removed from that house in 2 decades.
Damn,
but what of Langley? He was nowhere to be found. He didn't even show up at Homer's funeral, held inauspiciously and somewhat rudely on April Fool's Day. Could Langley, after a lifetime at his brother's side, really have abandoned him? Worse, could he have murdered him? Had Langley become so thoroughly sick of people that not even his dear brother's company would do? No. The reason police did not find Langley in the house is because it was a nightmare to find anything in that house. For weeks after Homer's death, the authorities made a diligent excavation of the Collyer estate, ultimately to discover the body of Langley lying only 10 feet from where Homer had died. Like some kind of fable, Langley had inadvertently tripped one of his own booby traps and been crushed to death in a tunnel by the same towers of crap he'd made to protect him and his brother from the fearsome world. It was actually Langley who died first, days before, leaving the paralyzed Homer helpless and by himself. Meaning, in a twisted sense of irony, they actually died how they fought so fervorously to live, left alone. Months after their deaths, the house was razed and a public park was built in its place. The Collyer Brothers Park, as it's named, is there to this day. Though the park is not so much a tribute to the brothers, but an unintentional symbol of the life that they rejected. A place where all are welcome to sit and watch the world grow. But that's kind of the...
Yeah, that's kind of the tragic tale there, isn't it? They wanted to stay alone, but in the end, those who want to stay alone die alone. I guess, in this case. Also, should probably serve as a warning for hoarders. Don't get that far. Like, seriously. That's the point to the booby traps. I mean, you think, oh, it's not too bad. Have you seen hoarders buried alive? Ooh, it can get bad. Really, I'm just saying. Whew. Anyway, so there's the Collyer Brothers. Good lord, that is just one sad story. Well, till next time. See ya.